Welcome to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Salute to everyone who is tuning in. You are very much appreciated. This video is going to discuss details from The Matrix Online and the events that took place after the Matrix Revolutions. We do not know how much of the Matrix Online story will be referenced in The Matrix 4 or if The Matrix Online will even be referenced at all, but I keep seeing little clues that suggest there will be at least some MXO Easter eggs for hardcore Matrix fans. So if this is your first time down here, or you simply want to know everything about the Matrix media universe, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on any future updates. Okay, if you've been here a while, you might have seen the 10 Matrix Misinterpretations Explained video where I debunked a Screen Rant article that had many popular yet flawed Matrix theories all in one place. That article openly stated that most of those theories use Reddit posts as the original source. But recently, I found the following Screen Rant article titled, The Matrix, Everything That Happened After the Original Movies. Now, just to be clear, the game ran for 4 years, from 2005 to 2009, so there is a lot to address, and it would be extremely difficult to cover everything. However, the topics that the article does cover are pretty accurate for the most part. What I find interesting, though, is that in this new article, there are no sources referenced. If you dig deep enough, one can certainly find the MXO summary notes for themselves on the internet, but that could be challenging to follow without having played the game or at the very least talking to someone who did. Fortunately, Vesuvius invited me to his podcast a couple of months ago, where we already discussed all the details of those notes, and I'll leave links in the description where you can always find links to all my sources. So shout out to V and Starshwar for sharing their Matrix Online knowledge with me. And if you look back at my earliest videos here on this channel, you can see footage that I took from the game back when it was still online. For this video, I'm going to stick mainly to the major plot points brought up in the article, which says, quote, the story of the Matrix has already been continued, mostly in the Matrix Online. This MMORPG, made with some superficial involvement from the creators of the Matrix, and was sold as the official continuation of the movie trilogy beyond the Matrix Revolutions. The game has since been closed due to a lack of players, and it remains to be seen whether The Matrix 4 will take these developments into account. But with Paul Chadwick taking over the story, The Matrix Online was certainly intended as a genuine continuation at the time. Let's pause right here for a minute. It is important to note that not only was Paul Chadwick appointed to continue the Matrix Online story by the Wachowskis, but he also wrote not one, not two, but 3 different Matrix comics: Deja Vu, The Miller's Tale, and one of my personal favorites, Let It All Fall Down. It is also worth mentioning that in the 3rd year of the game, Chadwick left the development team for personal reasons, at which time a developer who went by the name of RareBit took over writing for the game. He worked really hard to keep the game going, even created the final series of cinematic animations by himself, and he confirmed that his plot lines had to be approved by the Wachowskis as well. He also verified the MXO summary notes that I had found in my research were indeed his work. So big Matrix salute and shout out to the supermassive Blackhole A-star comic creator formerly known as RareBit. The article goes on to say, quote, Neo's fate. Although Neo dies in the Matrix Revolutions, his avatar is said to live on in the Matrix Online, and a mad rush ensues to collect the pieces of the one's projected self and kidnap the Shapers, who are able to manipulate these scattered leftovers. According to the Oracle, Neo had the foresight to realize that the world would one day require his power again, so he split fragments of himself inside the Matrix that could one day be used to keep the peace he created in the Matrix movies. Furthermore, the game confirms that the machines never returned the remains of Neo's body after the movie trilogy, leading Morpheus and other Zionists to question what the enemy had done with their martyr. However, the machines continue to protest their innocence, stating unequivocally that they didn't recycle Neo's physical form. Even more curiously, Trinity's body was also never recycled, and this gives both characters a route back into the franchise if The Matrix 4 does somehow follow on from The Matrix Online. I'll go into more detail about Neo and Trinity's Matrix 4 return in a separate video, but I can tell you from experience, collecting Neo's RSI fragments was certainly a real event in The Matrix Online. Also worth noting is that Trinity did return inside the Matrix prior to the game's servers going offline. The article goes on to describe the EPN and Cypherites. The rebooted Matrix and Neo's death gives way to 2 directly opposed cult-like followings. one conceptually based around the red pill and one aligned to the blue. The EPN, E Pluribus Neo, are dedicated to continuing the work Neo started and honoring the sacrifice he made in the Matrix Revolutions. This group believes that everyone should be allowed to exit the Matrix if they so wish, and this aim continues what audience were led to believe would happen after the movie trilogy. The EPN are led by the Kid, the character played by Clayton Watson in Reloaded and Revolutions, and his training under Morpheus is shown in a Matrix sequel comic. Problematically, there exists a more extreme offshoot of the group who believe citizens should be freed whether they choose so or not. Rather than Neo, the Cypherites follow Cypher's ideals from the original Matrix movie. Cypher came to believe ignorance is bliss, and the Cypherites also adopt this credo, seeking reinsertion into the virtual world and subservience to the machines. It is subsequently revealed that the Cypherites are being led by a machine-built program disguised as a human called Cryptos. Like the EPN, the Cypherites have a more extreme faction within who attempt to forcibly reinsert freed folk back into the Matrix. So this part of the article is pretty accurate, but just to add a little bit more background, the Kid was inspired to start the E Pluribus Neo group, which means from the many we are one, as a reaction to the blue pill propaganda Cryptos was spreading inside the Matrix. We also learned that Cryptos was close friends with Cypher prior to the start of the original Matrix film. Later in the article it says, Morpheus goes rogue and dies. So enraged does Morpheus become about Neo's missing body that he embarks on a personal terrorist campaign, using bombs that force people still plugged into the Matrix to see their world for what it really is without the usual choice of two different colored pills. Staunchly under the belief that the machines are holding onto his former friend's corpse, Morpheus becomes a wanted man for his guerrilla attacks, hunted by humans, machines, and exiles alike. In a devastating twist, Lawrence Fishburne's famous mentor figure is taken out by a mysterious and powerful program known as the Assassin, assumed to have been hired by the Merovingian. After a long period of hunting down, the Assassin is finally finished off by Niobe, Jada Pinkett Smith's character in the Matrix trilogy. The General later creates a digital fabrication of Morpheus for his own ends, but this program manages to gain some level of self-awareness, outgrowing his original purpose and fighting back against his own deletion, possibly creating an alternate version of Morpheus. So real quick, the code bombs Morpheus was using exposed the Matrix to blue pills by revealing lines of code within the Matrix. I spoke a little bit about Morpheus being killed by the Assassin and his subsequent return as a simulacrum in my meeting with Morpheus video that outlines my theory about how these events could explain the upcoming Yahya Abdul-Mateen role in the Matrix 4. This article mentioned the Assassin's connection to the Merovingian, which was indeed confirmed because the Assassin was brought into the Matrix through the mobile app train station built by the Train Man, who we all know works exclusively for the Merovingian. This section also mentioned the General, who made a cameo at the end of the second San Francisco leaked Matrix footage video here on this channel to show the resemblance between the black helicopters in the real world footage versus the General's helicopter in the Matrix Online. Here's what the article had to say about the General. The General and new agents. The machine general who led the final assault on Zion in the Matrix Revolutions was none too pleased that the fighting had come to an end without the humans' complete defeat. Disappointed that his side had opted for a peaceful solution, the General became an exiled program, gathered other machines loyal to his cause, and launched a covert campaign to reignite hostilities between man and robot. In pursuit of this goal, the General creates powered-up agents from the fragments of Neo's digital self and later attacks both the Zionists and the machines by using red-eyed agents. These new enemies are actually revealed to be no more than exiled programs disguised as agents to try and stoke tensions and break the truce. By combining them with Neo's residual self-image, red-eyed agents can be upgraded further and turned into N30 agents. At various points in the Matrix Online, the General comes under attack from Zion, his fellow machines, and the Merovingian. Okay, so what this article doesn't clearly define is that the General and his commandos represent Sentinels in the real world. When the General first enters the Matrix, he spreads propaganda leaflets that say not to trust the Frenchman, but at a later point does find himself aligned with the Merovingian. The commandos at one point kidnap Sati, and her absence destabilizes the Matrix weather system. The war between Zion and the machines continues. The Matrix Online confirms that an era of peace did follow in the wake of the original movie trilogy, but it was a tenuous one doomed to fail. Parties on both sides desperately tried to maintain the hard-earned civility, with the machines even creating a new, more friendly agent to act as a liaison between the two. Nevertheless, tensions constantly bubbled between Zion and the machines, with incidents such as the Cypherite leader twist and Neo's missing remains fostering mistrust between the two sides. But the final straw came when the machines discovered Zion was preparing for another war. Humans began making preparations by building a second settlement away from the eyes of the machines and stockpiling EMP weapons. As far as the machines were concerned, this violated the terms of the agreement made following the Matrix revolutions, and a second war kicked off. So this second settlement was called New Zion, and that was a big turning point in the game. The machines destroyed the original Zion in retaliation to what they considered to be the end of the truce. However, the oligarchs step onto the scene inside the Matrix and later give the humans and machines a new motivation to work together. This article does not mention the oligarchs, but for anyone who wants to know more about that storyline, we do go into those details in the original Matrix 4 podcast I mentioned before. The article does bring up Anome's Unlimit Group. During the alliance between Zion and the General, one of Niobe's people, a man called Anome, decides to go rogue and steal a machine upgrade the General had planned to give Zion for their joint operation against the Merovingian. The emergence of this new threat creates an unlikely alliance between Zion and the Merovingian, with the primary intention of rescuing Niobe. Basically, this new villain obtains cheat codes and terminally wounds Niobe. What is important to note from this plot point is that the Merovingian actually helps to rescue Niobe, providing segue into the Merovingian is a main villain. The leader of the exiles survives a joint effort by the Vamps and Lupines to end his reign as the chief of the digital underworld, and he even manages to bring the General under his sway as the game progresses, hoping to achieve his ultimate goal of getting rid of the Oracle and thus consolidating his influence within the Matrix. The Merovingian is also very likely to be the one responsible for the murder of Morpheus, although the true nature of the assassin is never explicitly revealed. Since the assassin appeared to be using corrupted exiles to destabilize the very fabric of the Matrix, the Merovingian could be looking to force another reboot. After uncovering the Merovingian's sinister designs, Niobe dedicates herself to his destruction, and this aim is quickly adopted by Zion as a whole, who goes so far as to team up with the General to win. The Merovingian comes close to assassinating the Oracle after painstakingly building a kill code for her, but he is foiled by the kid. As I previously mentioned, we know the assassin worked for the Merovingian because the train man brought him inside the Matrix, and Niobe falls back from pursuing him after the Merovingian helps to save her, and we know that both of these characters will be returning in the Matrix 4. Another point worth noting is that while the Merovingian failed in his attempt to kill the Oracle, one of the oligarchs was able to terminate her, but later she is restored when Seraph organizes the EPN and Cypherite Zion factions to combine the backup data that she provided them separately. To the Matrixologists who both appreciate this kind of analytical content and are familiar with Reddit, by all means, I encourage you to help the channel grow by sharing these videos over on Reddit and other platforms. And remember, as one realizes that one is a dream figure in another person's dream, that is self-awareness.